Greetings and welcome to the Brown Paper Bag Series. I'm with your co-host, Mr. Kola Brandon.
Thank you, and I'm here with your host, Mr. Brandon Lewis.
And today we're fortunate to have Kevin Walker here with us today, who's going to talk about a number of things from engineering to acting to real estate.
So let's see what's in the bag. Do the honors, my man.
All right. What is it? Oh wow!
What is
Real
it?
estate. Real estate. Wow, that was not planned. I promise you. I know this happens sometimes, but it really was not planned.
That's cool.
All right, so we'll talk about real estate for 45 seconds to a minute, and
Start it off.
we'll let
Let's see what's up.
we'll let who start up.
Go ahead. Let's
Kevin.
start off.
Okay,
Yeah.
Kevin. You
I
want
have 45 seconds?
Yes.
Sir. Okay. When I think of the word real estate, the first thing that really comes to my mind is just ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's a vital piece of everyone's, if you want to say it, their portfolio, part of their finances, is that everyone, I feel like, deserves and should have the understanding and own a piece of real estate for themselves. And it's really one of the things that separates this country and allows us, because we're so free to be able to buy and sell and do these things so easily in some places where government controlled, where you can't even buy as much land as you want to. I just love how you have the opportunity to be invested in this country through ownership.
Thank you. When I think of the word real estate, I think about the antitrust laws of the 1960s that allowed people to buy houses in other areas and so forth. This was trying to break down the walls of segregation. However, in the same breath, I also think about steering, I think about blockbusting, I think about all these certain laws or sort of de facto segregation that operated to keep blacks and other poor minorities out of housing, right? And I also think about the market crash where you had all these subprime loans to where people were taking out, and banks and loan officers were allowing it to happen. The people were taking out or biting off way more than they could chew, and they knew it. And so when all these houses sort of crashed, it affected a lot of areas, but I couldn't find one black area or brown population that it didn't affect. Whereas a lot of the white affluent areas stayed the same, if not were able to continue to progress or gain equity in their homes. And so that's what I think of when I think about real estate. I do think about opportunity, but I also think about the lack of opportunity that's been afforded to a lot of people, particularly brown and black and brown populations.
When I think of the term real estate, kind of like Kevin mentioned, how vital it is in our lives. And in addition to that, I kind of have like another curious aspect to it, as in how many people actually know what real estate is, how important it is, and how far it branches out to be. It's not just what people think it is, not just homes, it's not just land. Some people don't even know it's land. Some people don't even know it's only homes or not only homes. So it's kind of like how much further, how much deeper the meaning of real estate is what the word means to me.
Thank you everybody for providing your insight and thoughts about real estate, what it means to you. Today we are fortunate to have Kevin Walker here with us, and he's an outstanding well, not young anymore, but outstanding gentleman.
Hey, slow down, brother. I'll be 38 here.
but I've happened to know him since I was 18 years old. We pledged the same fraternity. Shout out to Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated at Gamma Zeta, Fort Valley State. But he's done just an enormous amount of things that we're going to get into. Again, he's an actor. He went through the CDEP program, which he kind of talk about, and became an engineer very young, graduated from Fort Valley and Georgia Tech. And he's also in real estate. He's a family man, a very God-fearing individual, very involved with his church. So he's done a lot of things that we're going to kind of talk about and tackle. We're going to open it up with our first question from Mr. Kola Brandon.
So, pleasure to meet you. Thank you for coming on to the show.
Definitely good to meet you.
Just from Brandon's introduction, I can tell you're similar to me. You do a lot of things, or you're into a lot of areas. Can you give the people a background as to everything you do? If it's not too much,
Yeah.
explain to me.
Yeah, no, it's not hard at all. I think the first place to start, especially since we're at Georgia Tech, is I was part of the CDEP program. Now, coming out of high school, I thought I was going to be a doctor. But came into the CDEP program and went down to Fort Valley State. And now CDEP is called the Cooperative Development Energy Program. It's a program that tries to get minority young men and women or not, I didn't even say young, I mean minority, but it's a program steering people into engineering through Department of Energy. And their goal is really to get people focused on not just engineering, but actually in the geology, health, physics, actually majors that are going to help further the Department of Energy. But, so I came from Las Vegas, man. I'm coming down here. I'm thinking I'm going to Fort Valley. I'm thinking I'm coming to Atlanta at first. I actually was going to Fort Valley. It's a big difference. And I love the Valley, but yeah, I'm a city guy. I grew up in the big, grew up in Vegas. So when I got to Fort Valley, I still remember that like it was plain as day. The first summer, it was right before school started. It was me, as also two other guys. I went down with Joe Barnes and James Jackson. We came down there and we were like, man, I thought we were in Atlanta. Like, where it's a railroad track that separates the town from the one side to the other side, from the black side to the white side. I hate to say it that way, but went down to Fort Valley, and there I majored in math. Came down to Georgia Tech, majored in electrical engineering, and then got my master's here in electrical engineering.
At Georgia Tech as well?
At Georgia Institute of Technology. From there, I worked defense for a few years, and I still do software, work in defense. I've worked in also in healthcare doing software. But I made a change probably about 2009. I picked up my real estate license. And that was the first thing, talking about doing a lot of different things. Had a real bad experience purchasing a property. So I decided, I need to educate myself and really understand this. So I picked up my real estate license, and thank God things have really progressed with that. Now I've actually taken my broker's test. So I'm actually a broker now. I work as an associate broker on the side for Maximum One Realty here. And through that, I actually created my own side real estate company, Engineering Realty LLC.
Engineering Realty LLC.
Engineering Realty LLC.
Phone number is?
Phone number is 678-310-6418. But no, with that, I do property management through there. And we talked about just a lot of different other things. One thing I really started getting into the last few years is into acting. I started doing some theater at my church. And it was more of just an idea just to really be involved with my daughter. Because my daughter is really into the arts, really into drama, singing. And it's just kind of progressed from there. Really went through started taking classes, picked up an agent, started auditioning, doing different things. So I almost feel like that's my current fall forward, I guess if you want to say like Denzel said. That's really my fall forward action in my life right now, because I feel like I failed so much in it, and that's what keeps driving me to keep trying to work at it, keep trying to do it. Like when Brandon said, well, he's an actor and all that, I was like, man, I don't even feel comfortable saying I'm an actor because I have so much further to go. But it's just something I'm working at. I'm not, like I said, you can't be scared of failure. Right. So, and on top of that, family man, 2 children, and
Beautiful wife.
Yes, beautiful wife. She's a AKA from Fort Valley State.
Fort Valley. So
Yeah.
that actually leads into my next question. As a Cali guy, how did you find Fort Valley?
Well, Vegas, Cali, for Vegas.
How did you find Fort Valley, or even get interested in going to that area of Atlanta?
The way it worked out, that CDEP was actually hooked up when you go 3 years at Fort Valley. The first school that they were hooked up with for the second part, when you do your engineering. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I said it correctly. You do your basics at Fort Valley. Mm-hmm. Then you go on and you do your engineering at a different school. Okay. At that point in 2000, all you had was Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech just was added on, but all you had was UNLV. So there were guys from UNLV who were working, mentoring there in some youth programs, and that's how I found out about it.
Oh wow!
And the program is still viable? Is there still?
CDEP is definitely still going strong. Definitely.
That's cool.
So we kind of had to shift gears a little bit, so thank you for providing your background. One of the things that I wanted to focus on, I know that you do a lot with engineering, you've worked with defense and things like that, so that's an inspiration, I think, to a lot of people. And I don't know if a lot of, it's really interesting, even walking into Georgia Tech, and you know what, I think that's where we'll start off. Walking into Georgia Tech, I saw very few black people, right, as students, right? The majority of people that I saw were of white, seemed to be Asian and Indian descent. Now, I'm not quite sure. I don't know how they were self-identified, but that's kind of what I've noticed just off my eye. How do you think we can get more young black students involved in engineering or geology, some of the things that you were mentioning with the program?
One of the just programs like your CDEPs, actually, programs where they're reaching out, trying to encourage minorities to get into STEM. And now
STEM means science,
technology, engineering, math, and it starts in our schools. It starts early, where kids need to be exposed, and that's why something like Hidden Figures is so good, showing women in that work for NASA who are mathematicians. We have to just have a desire and a want to see that there's really a way to prosper outside of some of our classic disciplines, where we see a lot of people. It's easy to see high-profile athletes, people in the arts and entertainment. It's easy to see that, but they don't understand that working as an engineer. I read an article recently. Working as an engineer, you'll make more money in your lifetime working as an engineer than being an NFL football player.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, and those are the kind of things that young men and women need to understand. And I would just say, just being here at Georgia Tech, what's even more interesting is that undergrad, there's a small, but there's a good amount of African American students here. And you go into grad school, it's a little bit smaller, but Georgia Tech has probably one of the larger populations of black engineers. But the even crazier thing is when you go into grad school, it's more so U.S. born versus foreign born.
Really?
It's just, STEM is a problem for just Americans. It really is. It really is. And we're being passed up because everyone is sending their best and their brightest out here in their PhD programs, getting their masters, and what are they doing with it? Right. They're working here, but some of them are going back home working. Right. So what if the next internet happens in India? Or what if it happens in China?
Very true.
It's simple. But just going back to what you said, it starts early, and you need more people creating programs that are going to drive minorities into, incentivize them into going into.
Such like a seat at the meeting, right?
Yes,
So it's all about the exposure of it and things like that.
Definitely.
So with that understanding, and I know that you've always had a love for the engineering field, I do want to kind of shift and focus a little bit on the real estate aspect. And this is kind of a weird interview because Kevin does actually do a great number of things, and it's not like the jack of all trades, master of none. He's actually very qualified in all that he does. But in switching to the real estate piece, you know, one thing that I noticed coming out of college, and with myself, and with a lot of other people that I've known and grown up with, why do you think, and maybe you can speak to this, and maybe because I don't, you might think otherwise, do you think there's an issue, particularly with African Americans, with this idea of I'd rather buy a nice car, fancy car, over buying a house?
I think that there is an issue with how we use our money. And who said, I don't know if Andre or Big Boy said, it's not how much you make, it's how much you spend, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like someone, if they utilize their resources well, learning to save, doing the things that, it's not about having a six-figure salary. It's saving that money and using it the correct way. So when you ask, do we have issues with home ownership because we're splurging on, I guess you want to say, unnecessary items? I think it is a problem, yes.